Welcome to the breakout session, Developing L&D at the Speed of Light at Subway. L&D professionals need to reach team members, clients, and partners with engaging content, and they need to do it while responding quickly to changes in business and in learning needs by creating value from agile learning content. Copyright Clearance Center's team of content, knowledge management, and strategy experts help organizations maximize the value of their learning assets, accelerate innovation, and create competitive advantage through our leading-edge learning content management solutions. My name is Stephen Casbier, and I'm a principal consultant at CCC. Please come and see me at our virtual booth in the exhibit hall. I'd love to chat with you about how your organization is navigating digital transformation and driving innovation. But now it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker for this breakout session, Kathy Connick. Kathy is the Global Director of Learning and Development at Subway, responsible for driving innovative learning strategy to support the development and knowledge acquisition of team members and business partners. She focuses her team on modern learning methods that lend themselves to technology-based implementation. Connick holds a bachelor's degree in liberal arts from the University of Connecticut and a strategic workplace planner certification from the Human Capital Institute. In her spare time, Connick serves on the board of the Brass City Ballet, partakes in adventurous vacations, and spends time with her family and dogs. Please welcome Kathy Connick.
I just want to say that I am honored to be included in such a group of talented L&D leaders. And a special shout out to CLO for taking the bold step to continue with this great event. I wish we were all here together, shaking hands and celebrating in person the great work we do, but we are not, so today we do that virtually. I'm Kathy Connick. I am the Global Director for Learning and Development with Subway Franchise World Headquarters. And what that means is I lead the function for our field-facing teammates across the globe. I am here today to share with you our work over the last few years to establish a high-value, fully functioning L&D team, and how we did that in very short order. But first, I'd like to tell you a little bit about who we are and how we came to be the largest quick service restaurant in the world. So it really did begin with a handshake and $1,000. Fred DeLuca was a graduating high school student in Bridgeport, Connecticut, 1965. And as the story goes, Fred was looking to borrow money to attend the University of Bridgeport so that he could become a doctor. And he approached a family friend, Dr. Buck, who, by the way, is a nuclear physicist, and he asked Dr. Buck if he would loan him money so that he could make his first year's tuition. But Dr. Buck had another idea. He had another idea in mind, and he said to Fred that he would give Fred money to invest in something that would give Fred a return so Fred could pay his own tuition. And as an equal partner in 1965, they built the very first subway in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Since then, Subway has grown to 44,000 restaurants across 112 countries. And our very first international restaurant was in Bahrain. And as you saw from the earlier video, we have some very unusual locations, including the Pentagon. We exist on military bases, hospitals, college campuses. We have a kosher restaurant in a Jewish community center, and a Subway and a Los Angeles laundromat. And we also have a Subway in the Freedom Tower. And that is a really great story, because as the Freedom Tower was being constructed, this franchise owner built a Subway in a shipping container. And that shipping container was hoisted up with each level as the Freedom Tower was being built, so that workers did not have to make that long journey down during a very short lunch hour. So we are an iconic brand, universally recognized for our commitment to healthy eating and a healthy lifestyle, all because a 17-year-old high school kid wanted a $1,000 loan. And while that was many years ago, it is that entrepreneurial, get it done, scrappy, and tenacious attitude that I think is core to who we are as Subway employees. It's in our DNA. And I believe it is that competency or attitude that we carry that really helped us to accelerate our journey as a learning and development team. So here's who we serve. Here's our audience. As an L&D team, as I mentioned, we are externally facing and we are functionally aligned to operations. Business development agents are contracted to be responsible for large territories. They are the mechanism that Subway has put in place to support restaurant owners, to build and develop markets, and as well to ensure that brand standards and compliance to operations exist. Going up the pyramid, you see that business development agents employ field consultants. Field consultants visit each and every restaurant regularly to provide individual coaching on all things operations, including team member engagement and training. Field consultants are like gold. They are extremely important to the business. They have the most frequent and regular interaction with restaurant owners. Kind of like to think of them as our feet on the street, right? Therefore, they need skills and competencies as well as resources to coach, problem solve, think critically, and importantly, make judgment calls when issues aren't so black and white. They have a really tough job, and that job can be particularly challenging in markets where competition is fierce and restaurant owners are under stress. So I'm sure you can imagine during this moment in time, they're under immense pressure. Going up another level are franchise owners. So we remain 100% franchise owned. And our franchise owners come in all shapes and sizes. We have many who are single unit owners, kind of like mom and pop. Actually, we find an awful lot of father-daughter combinations for some interesting reason. And we have other franchise owners who may own hundreds of restaurants. So you can imagine that this cohort has very different needs from a learning and development and training perspective. So we put sandwich artists on top of that food chain. And yes, being a food service business, that pun was intended. And in this group, we include other restaurant staff, such as shift leads and managers. And if we think of field consultants as gold, I like to think of our sandwich artists, our restaurant staff as platinum. People make or break any business. And in our business, if you think about it, nearly every single sale begins and ends with a face-to-face interaction between the guest and a teammate on the other side of the sandwich unit. In fact, we often say that the moment of truth for our business begins and ends with restaurant staff. Marketing and product get you in the door, but is the relationship, is the interaction with that team member that provides a guest with a reason to return. So with that as context, I want to remind you that above the green box, none of those learners are on our payroll. They are not employed by Franchise World Headquarters. And as you know, that presents a challenge when it comes to learning adoption because we cannot mandate training. We cannot insist that a particular training module be completed. if we are to avoid co-employer issues. And because that is the case, it is that much more important that as an L&D team, we market the merits of our training and that we make learning that much more desirable. So let's talk about how we built out an L&D function at the speed of light. For years, since the beginning, we trained restaurant owners and restaurant staff on the foundation of managing a restaurant operation, how to build a delicious sandwich, how to bake bread, how to maintain safe operational standards, right? How to run a restaurant. And for years, we trained new business development agents on how to penetrate a new market, recruit and sell to new franchise owners, building out the brand. For years, we were, as a business, relatively unmatched in the marketplace. We were the healthy alternative. And new franchise owners just came, right? We had no trouble selling franchises. They just came. And guests came. It was welcomed, that new and alternative to a burger and fries. However, our business started to face increasing competition. And this shifted the work our business development agents needed to do, as well as it shifted the way restaurant owners needed to think of themselves. Restaurant owners now needed to differentiate themselves from the other healthy alternatives. There were more of those, right? And as restaurant owners were facing the increasing challenge in the business, there were also increasing challenges attracting and retaining staff. So as the business challenges were now different, the L&D function, and I use that in air quotes, needed to evolve with the needs of the business. We worked with a consulting partner to assess the learning needs of the business, and as well as take a look at the function to see if we were set up to support this new challenge. And in turn, we created a vision and a value proposition intended to really focus on improving operational capabilities. Upskilling our business development agents, they needed to be and do different things. Increase restaurant performance, right? Restaurant sales. And improving the guest experience so that the guest has the reason to return and choose us over the other healthy alternatives. And to do this, we recognized as part of our strategy that we need to make sure that everything that we do is closely aligned to the business, that we keep the learning experience front and center, learning that engages the learner and keeps the learner coming back for more. And that we needed to evolve our function so that we had now the skills to deliver higher quality curriculum and content and a technology platform better suited for a global multi-language audience. And our strategy thinking is cyclical, right? Like any strategy would be. We build a strategy that aligns to the broader business objectives, and then we continue to shape that with our business partners over and over and over. Okay, I want to share with you a little bit about our organizational structure. So when we started this journey just a few years ago, we had a function that was very limited. And prior to the build out, we had one instructional designer who created PowerPoint decks, some e-learning, but mostly PowerPoint decks and learning decks for classroom trainers. In fact, most of the training that we conducted was via the classroom and via classroom facilitation. We had facilitators aligned across global centers where we either had a large presence as a business or where growth was continuing at a rapid pace. But generally, training was pragmatic and it was intended to really get new restaurant owners up and operating. Within just a matter of months, we added design and development capacity, and we strategically added capacity for this skill set in our Brisbane, Australia location, because we wanted to be sensitive to the global need. Really debunking the perception that we were a North American business with just a bit of a global presence. We're in 112 countries now. And we added other key roles that were important to the team, including a metrics and analytics specialist so that we could begin to measure impact, a communications lead to promote programs and to elevate the brand value, a governance lead, a strategy lead, and a senior manager as a learning consultant to engage with our North American business partners. We put the infrastructure in place to really up our game. We did lots of things when we put that infrastructure in place, but I really want to call out the role of the North American lead. This role was extremely successful and extremely important in establishing ourselves as a critical player and shifting the thinking within the system regarding how learners learn. We hammered home the 70-20-10 framework, moving away from the practice of just thinking about training via the classroom and emphasizing the value of hands-on practice, coaching, and role modeling. A specific focus for us in 2019 was social learning as we modernized our learning approach. With networks, we were able to shine the light on best practices and enable peer-to-peer learning and drive focus on key initiatives. So as an example, in 2019, the business was rolling out a new guest feedback platform. There was a tremendous emphasis on increasing the adoption of this tool and bringing in more guest feedback. So we built a 3-month virtual intensive on the topic of guest centricity. And we piloted this approach with field consultants in Europe. Virtual sessions were facilitated around curated content and webinars. Participants came together about an hour or two a week over these 3 months, and they were expected to take what they learned in those sessions, apply it in the field, and then come back together as a team to problem solve and share best practices. And after 6 months of completing the program, the pilot group experienced a 90% increase in responses received from guests in the in our guest care social listening tool. And on the targeted KPI of Net Promoter Score, these pilot participants outperformed others by 13 percentage points, demonstrating that this work really had a specific correlation to the impact on business, increasing Net Promoter Score, coming back or promoting the restaurant to other guests, and increasing at a significant rate the bit of feedback that we were receiving from guests. This really cemented our value as a learning and development function. We were able to show results. I'd like to specifically call out the mechanism that we have in place aligning to business priorities. This 2-tiered approach to learning governance establishes accountability, and the organization really puts in place a system of checks and balances. Tier 1, the Executive Learning Council, is a cross-functional team of executives that are hand-selected for their expertise, and very importantly, for the influence they have over other groups within the system. Members of this team include directors, functional directors across the system, vice presidents, C-suite leads, and very influential business development agents from all parts of the world. They review learning opportunities, and they are and serve as ambassadors for the learning and development function. They champion our strategy. They provide oversight, and with their experience and expertise, they really inform the development of programs and the execution of strategy. And if I had to declare, one lever that we pulled to really accelerate our build out, our credibility as a learning and development team, I really do have to emphasize the role of governance. Because while you can have the technology and you can have the skills and you can bring in contemporary learning strategies, that it is really listening and this partnership with the business that accelerated our maturity. As an L&D function, it is so important that you build trust with the business. It's easy to be perceived as the training team, in air quotes. And then when you try to, up your game, it's easy to be perceived as those, academics in the ivory tower. But our approach to governance not only helped us to ensure alignment, but it was our way to prove that we were listening and that we do not pretend to know it all. We respect and value the hard work and the learnings, the knowledge that our field partners hold, and that without them, we cannot serve the business the way the business needs to be served. That partnership, I think, was really the number one driver to really accelerate our maturity and to make sure that we were focused on the right work, and that we had influencers to help us drive adoption. So I'm going to play a video now to show you a little bit of some of what that work looked like last year, and I hope you enjoy it. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I know every time I watch that video, I get hungry. For a little bit of frame of reference, I'm recording this during lunchtime, so I am even that much hungrier now. But anyhow, to round off this session, we just recognized as a L&D function that we had not grown with the business. Market conditions were driving or pushing the business hard, and we needed to lean into a different approach if we were to upskill our audience. And being a scrappy organization, born out of a 17-year-old's ambition, we built an L&D function really in just a matter of 2 short years. In 2018, we put the team in place, and in 2019, we executed and we went at it hard. We're now able to determine critical KPIs that the business cares about, metrics that matter. use gamification to engage the learner and increase adoption, establish a career path as a mechanism to show our learners that there is a subway pathway, identify and address competency gaps so that we're zeroing in on the greatest needs, make learning more accessible through responsive technology, recognizing that mobile devices are the tool of choice for the majority of our learners, and use the power of peer-to-peer learning with our social learning program, tapping into what works and what has made this brand the largest quick service restaurant in the world. So in close, I just have to give a quick shout out to the Subway Learning and Development team. And I think there are a number of you in the audience. And for those of you listening to this session, it is about you. And thank you, thank you, thank you. You rock. And as I am, I can tell you, Fred would be incredibly proud. Thank you. I'll take questions now.